I'm going to introduce Julie Howar. And Julia is a seabird biologist and data nerd with Point Blue Conservation Science. She's based at Point Blue's Vandenberg field station in, oh man, I mess this up every time, Lompoc. Yeah. Yes, Lompoc, California, where she has studied the seabirds and occasionally the humans of the Central Coast since 2004. She helped design and support a local community science program monitoring seabird populations and disturbance and is trying to make it bigger and better. Currently, she's developing an easy-to-use data entry tool to support collection and storage of information about seabirds and disturbance. Awesome, we need one for sea otters. She hopes this tool and the package it is part of will be useful to groups coastwide in their effort to reduce disturbance to seabirds. Welcome, Julie, and take it away.
Hi, thanks a lot. And thanks a lot, Jenna and Cara and everybody else who is attending and participating in this talk. I'll try to get us through to lunch as fast as I can, but just so you know, I can't see any of you, so you can eat and I won't notice. Please go ahead. So my talk is how to be seabird aware. I work for Point Blue Conservation Science, and if you are unfamiliar with Point Blue, we were founded 55 years ago as Point Reyes Bird Observatory, or PRBO, which you may have heard of. Our main office is in Petaluma with field offices statewide, including in Lompoc, where I work. We have over 140 staff, and we work to advance conservation through science, partnerships like this one, and outreach. We focus on the promotion of nature-based solutions to help wildlife and people. The focus of my work is seabirds. There are many different types of birds that utilize the marine environment, such as shorebirds, raptors, ducks and geese, herons and egrets, and what we all think of as seabirds. Technically, seabirds are strictly pelagic species, but it's reasonable to stretch that definition a bit. So for the purposes of my work and this presentation, seabirds are birds that are dependent on the sea for food, but that come to land to rest and breed. The local species of interest are pelicans, brants, pelagic and double-crested cormorants, gulls, including Western California and Hermans, and alcids, which includes common murres and pigeon guillemots. There are other seabirds, but these are the most commonly seen in our general area and some of the easier to identify, although identifying the different gulls can certainly be a challenge. There's a little bit of background info into seabird life history. Seabirds are very long-lived. The albatross pictured at the top is Wisdom. She's a Laysan albatross who's 69 years old, and at least as of 2 years ago was still producing young. She did return to Midway Atoll last year, but did not lay an egg, which is another thing that seabirds will do, and that is they will skip breeding years if conditions aren't optimal. Most of our local species generally don't live for 70 years. They can make it to 10 or from 10 to 30 years, depending on the species. Also, different species will raise 1 to 3 chicks. And they will commonly only raise 1 brood. So 1 brood per season, unlike a songbird, such as a sparrow, which can do 2 or 3, or rock doves or barn owls, which can breed year round. Another life history characteristic is that they will provide care to their young for a long time, sometimes up to a year after fledging. Seabirds also tend to breed in isolated areas away from terrestrial predators, such as offshore rocks, islands, and cliffs. Some species are colonial nesters, like brants, cormorants, and common murres. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a picture of the murre colony, a very small portion, actually, of the murre colony on Southeast Farallon Island. Those look like black and white rocks mixed in with brown rocks, but the black and white things are all birds. So that is a lot of birds to count and monitor. In addition, birds will tend to roost together in large mixed flocks. So here's an example of that, and it's also a quiz for you. How many brown pelicans do you think are in this picture? There's gulls and oyster catchers and terns and all sorts of other things here, but definitely brown pelicans are probably the easiest ones to see. I want you to type your answer in the chat. And we'll see who gets the closest at the end of my talk. Just for a hint, that's a zoom in of that section on there. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds. I feel like I should be playing the Jeopardy theme song in honor of Mr. Trebek. All right, I'm getting some good guesses. Anywhere from 300 to 3,000. All right. So I'm going to roll on. Some of those characteristics of seabird life history also increase their vulnerability to disturbance. Because many species roost or nest colonially, a single disturbance can affect a large number of birds. Flock dynamics also make it rare that only one bird will be affected. It's usually if one bird reacts, every single bird reacts. If disturbance takes place during the breeding season, birds that flush from eggs and chicks can leave their offspring exposed. And that can result not only in failure for individual nests if a predator comes in, but if the entire colony flushes off, they can abandon their nests and the colony for the season. Finally, birds aren't the only species that enjoy nearshore coastal rocks and cliffs. These areas are usually quite scenic and they're appealing for humans for recreation and sightseeing. This is a review from a local boat charter tour. People do want to have close encounters with wildlife, but they often don't realize the impact or the potential impact of their actions. This person wrote, great time, had an amazing tour of the coast, even more fun racing over the swells with Captain Mike. Got really close to a raft of otters and crazy looking jellyfish. Then we checked out the cliffs and the nesting cormorants. I mean, to be honest, this sounds like something I would enjoy doing. Unfortunately, these are photos from that same tour's website and their Facebook page. It's obvious that on the left-hand shots that these aren't taken with a zoom lens, and the birds are definitely being disturbed by the boat that is traveling through them. On the bottom right, there's a picture of a mixed tour group in the area where I used to do surveys for seabirds. And so that bottom rock is actually continued up in that top picture, and that top shot is a map of all the cormorant nests that are on that rock above where those kayakers and boaters are. So, they went to go see the nesting cormorants, and the nesting cormorants definitely also saw them. The big question is, what can we do to make wildlife experiences interesting for people while minimizing the impact of those experiences on the wildlife? So in order to limit disturbance, we need to know the exact human behaviors and address them directly. These charts represent the actual data from 4 years of disturbance monitoring at a state park on the top and a tourist destination on the bottom. Human-based disturbances came from the air in orange, the water in blue, and the land in green. And the size of the circles indicates the disturbance rate. The bigger the circle, the more disturbances per hour for that year. What stands out to me here is that there is a lot of variation. Disturbance rates and types change from one year to the next, and different locations are going to be subject to different amounts and sources of disturbance. However, there is one noticeable trend. The disturbances at the state park on the top tended to be land-based. That area is a place where there's steep cliffs and there's more hiking. Whereas at the tourist site, they were water-based, and this area is better known for its kayaking. Having the data to see this difference is helpful in addressing the causes of disturbance and targeting outreach to the appropriate user groups. So how do we get the data? To address the disturbance in a way that is useful for outreach, there needs to be a system of observing and reporting disturbance and its impacts. We need to know the who, what, where, and when. In order to get this data, we need to find the people who are interested in collecting it, let them know how to do that, and then give them the means to report their observations and create a channel of communication between the observers and the users of the data. As Paul mentioned earlier, the Seabird Protection Network is a multi-organization collaborative whose mission is to reduce human disturbance to seabirds and other marine wildlife along the California coast. Point Blue is actually a member of this network in the Point Sur to Point Mugu chapter. This chapter-based network partners with boaters, kayakers, pilots, and seabird biologists to provide the education and outreach materials. Currently, they have an online form where disturbances to marine mammals anywhere on the coast can be reported by anyone. Data collected from this effort have been used to create brochures, curricula, and training programs. Since this form is incident-based, it doesn't necessarily allow for long-term tracking of disturbance events and their impact on local seabird populations. So we at Point Blue wanted to provide the network with supportive information based on consistent longer-term observations. So we're developing a program called Seabird Aware. We aim for this project to complement the Seabird Protection Network. Seabird Aware is a locally driven, site-focused, repeatable effort that collects seabird population and disturbance data. And the key to this effort are interested local individuals and groups who are willing to act as community scientists. Through Seabird Aware, community groups would be provided with data entry tools and standardized survey protocols that allow for the comparison of data over time and with other sites. Once a group has shown interest in surveying a site, the community scientists will receive training materials to learn how to collect the data. On the website, we intend to provide protocols and reports that they can download, as well as the ability to do their data entry online. One thing that I personally am quite excited about is that we're currently developing a mobile data entry tool that can be used in the field, even when the observer is out of cellular range, something that is not uncommon in many places along our coast. There are also online data visualization tools to allow community scientists and other interested parties to track changes in population and disturbance over time. And these are customizable to year, species, disturbance type, and location. Some of these tools include distribution maps and line graphs illustrating the trends in the data. And within a year or two of starting data collection, this information can be used to inform managers and land stewards on where to focus their efforts to reduce disturbance. The Seabird Aware website also hosts a repository of reports, outreach and education materials, and links to affiliates. Included in the links are historic seabird population data, reports on seabird monitoring as it relates to marine protected areas, and more. So we definitely consider this effort to be in cooperation with the Seabird Protection Network. We all want to reduce human-caused disturbance, and we aim to have the data gathered by Seabird Aware participants used to inform outreach that the Seabird Protection Network and other groups, such as state parks and Respect Wildlife, are developing. So this project is in development, and we're interested in helping you to organize a group to start conducting surveys in your area. If you're interested, please contact either Dan or myself at the email addresses that are on the screen, and I'll put those up on the, either in the chat or on the boards that Cara and Jenna are providing. So a big thank you to our funders and partners, and especially you. Thanks for going a little bit over with me. And I haven't forgotten how many brown pelicans. The closest ones I saw were in the 1,000 range. And I wrote down that Lillian and Karen got it. And I'm sorry if any of them snuck off the top of my screen. It was 1,128. So good job. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. That was amazing, amazing, and great job guessing, Karen and Lillian. So questions for Julie? We have a lot of thank yous. Thank you for the talk. How can we help you help the birds? Azul wants to know.
Yeah, basically, if you or have a group in your area that's interested in participating in this sort of a program where there's some consistent monitoring to gather data, let us know. Other than that, just keep your eyes open. And if you see disturbances, you can always report them to the Seabird Protection Network, or you can even contact CalTIP as well. And sorry, Jen Boyce, you also said 1,000.
Oh, good call. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
You bet.
Helena Lake says MDO is consistently under disturbance. Yes, Helena, you are right. That's what the data that Dan and Julie collected does show, that MDO is the second highest disturbance area along the stretch of coast.
And we have a group doing surveys there. They just were unable to this year because of COVID.
Right.
So they're looking for help if you're in that area.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie.
You bet.
Okay.